What's up, Manga Mac? I'm Amber here with Dark Fox. We're here to talk to you about Belle today. We just saw it last night and we're excited to get into it. So first we're going to start with a no spoiler kind of how we've initially reacted to it. And then we'll get into the nitty gritty of what we liked, what we didn't like, where we wish it would have gone, maybe. We'll see.
Are you showing your hand about how you felt about Belle?
I mean, I liked it.
誰しもが皆秘密を抱えている。これは私だけの秘密。
ようこそ You の世界へ。
So, yeah, like you said, we watched it last night, and in a lot of ways, it was very like Mamoru Hosoda. It kind of really fell into that weird house, especially since it's kind of like a spiritual sequel / remake of Summer Wars. You read the manga for Summer Wars. You haven't seen the film, correct?
Correct.
I don't know if the manga changes anything, so we will compare and contrast as we go on. But I was pleasantly surprised because I was really expecting this to kind of to be a carbon copy of Summer Wars in some ways. And it, probably halfway through the movie or past halfway, I was like, okay, it's not doing exactly the same thing as Summer Wars. It's kind of just doing something different. Particularly, and this is minor spoilers, but I'm not going to get the details, is the identity of the characters. In Summer Wars, it was almost directly like one-to-one exactly who you expected. Where this movie, it sets up a couple characters you might expect might be the identity of the character.
Yeah.
But it does try and kind of surprise you a little bit, or even just not even surprise you, but just take it in different directions. Where like maybe what you thought was relevant in the beginning isn't so relevant towards the end. So I enjoyed that aspect of the film. I think I still might like Summer Wars the most. Summer Wars was the first Mamoru Hosoda film I saw, and that one really set the pace for me. For me personally, Mamoru Hosoda films are ensemble films mostly. It might have a strong main character, but it mostly has a strong cast. A lot of different characters, and they bounce off each other in a lot of fun ways.
And this movie definitely had that.
Yes, this isn't the most ensemble of his films, but it is still that. The cyber world is a big part of his films. There's a lot, different worlds, alternate worlds, and also furry stuff. There was furry stuff in this movie, not a ton. I think Wolf Children will be the furriest of his movies forever because it literally has yiffing in it. But there's small but potent furry stuff in this film.
Small
bit. But yeah, I guess we should start off by saying, I like the movie a fair bit. I'm not undecided, I'm undecided if, I like it the most or the least of his films. I'm not really interested in ranking it right now, but I did like it and I recommend it. I think it's a good movie. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars on my Letterboxd account. I do really enjoy it. I would watch it again. I will read it when it eventually comes to a manga light novel adaptation. I mean, obviously the music parts of it won't transfer as well to the written page, but I am a big fan of musicals. I wouldn't consider that movie to be a musical. There's just performances scattered throughout.
Yeah.
I do really like it, but I feel like there are some things that were unresolved.
Yeah, we'll get into more details obviously after the spoiler bump, but I think I know a couple of things you're talking about. But I want to hear it because to me it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
To you, obviously, it ruined the movie. So
it didn't ruin the movie. I love it. Okay, I don't love it, but I do like it a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't leave the theater, so.
So the synopsis of the film is basically there is in the future there is a social media platform called You. It was called Oz.
You can be the real you.
Yes, that's a good way to remember it. And your avatar, your alternate ego, your alter ego is called As.
Yes.
Not As. As.
As.
Yeah. And in this world, one of the interesting things about this film compared to Summer Wars didn't really explain the interface. People were just on their phones, and somehow when they showed the scenes in,
Well, I think it was laptops.
There were laptop phones, but it was just regular everyday interfaces that we have today.
Yeah.
But then when they showed the scenes inside the cyber world, it was just like, it looked like VR because they were the emo and move around. They never really explain it, but this movie actually pretends to explain the tech because they have like these AirPods.
Yes. Belle was much more interactive because they have these little clip-ins for their ears in addition to the computer monitor, and it has biometric and like kind of haptic as well to kind of get the full experience. And like you can still be like walking around and like doing stuff in the real world while you're also doing things in you.
Right, and they make it clear that like basically your senses link up to like the other side, including like you know your six senses and maybe even pain and like basically all your sensory experience links to us or you.
Even internal pain.
Yeah. The goofy thing about the movie is that people don't really get to edit their avatar. The avatar is basically extrapolated out of your true self because the biometrics are so advanced that it reads like, I don't know what it reads. It reads, it just says it reads your biometrics.
They do upload like an initial picture that it pulls like at least like the face from.
That's true. So somebody could put a picture of the cat and it will extrapolate that off the
cat.
Because
there are some characters that have like cat ears and like different like animalistic
Well,
things.
that's what I was gonna get to because I was gonna say like a bummer for the game to just extrapolate like a chibi ass monster for you. It's like what the game's like roasting people all the time because like almost all the main characters have a humanoid kind of either handsome, pretty, or cool looking, or ugly looking avatar. They look like main characters, but all the mob characters in the background, they look like chibi weird monsters or squares that jump up and down. And we're like, bro, it must suck for these people. They're like the suckiest people in the world. This game doesn't even care about them. It's just like, oh, let me read your true intent here. You're a square.
Yeah. Or there's like one character that she's kind of like this unpleasant woman that they make into like a baby character, but she's very much not like a baby in real life. So it's a little interesting. But like Hiro's avatar is really cool and it's nothing humanoid at all.
Who's Hiro?
Her
the
best
girl.
friend.
Yeah, the girl.
I mean, there's many girls, but
right. Yeah. Well, when you said Hiro, I was thinking about the guy characters like who was Hiro, but Hiro was her best friend. It was kind of Hiro's early on. My favorite characters were Hiro and Kinishima. The paddle guy.
Oh, I think it was Kimishin or something like that.
Yeah, so the there's a lot of like classmate
characters. It was a
characters.
nickname either way, but
yeah, but I don't remember the regular name. Anyways.
I'm gonna go with Kimishin.
Okay. I'm gonna go with paddle guy.
Paddle guy is an accurate name.
Yeah. So like a lot of the class members are characters in this movie, and like her best friend is like I guess you could say she's like the dour nerdy girl, but she's more like really sharp and all into like information manipulation. So she's actually like really, really funny, and she's really like terse.
Yeah, very blunt and just like to the point and calling it as it is.
Yeah, she basically kind of like insults the main character sometimes, but it comes from a place of like, hey, you know, like I can tell you this because we know each other, and you probably need to hear it.
Yeah.
Whatever. And Paddle Guy, he's just like a big goofball. He has the best recurring joke in the movie about
I'm rooting for you.
Yeah, yes.
She has a crush on me.
Yeah, and like that plays into some of the I mean honestly where some of the characters end up isn't that surprising, but I did think they were going to focus more on like a love triangle.
Yeah. The
movie kind of doesn't really go in a love triangle direction. It's more like it doesn't really focus on love anyways. It's this is the most online movie ever because all of the threats and all the dangers in this movie are about like getting doxxed and like having to log out forever. Yes. Like that's like the big danger. And then later on there are real dangers.
Well, so no, they said you wouldn't get knocked off forever. They said that you can constantly like reinvent or you can re-up your avatar even if it dies. That was one thing that they did say for you. But one of the things that I wanted to mention, and it's not spoilery, that I found difficult with the movie is some of the CGI elements were a lot. Like it seemed very jarring where like there would either be way too many things going on the screen, like a million avatars, or it'd just be rushing around so fast that it didn't like really trace well on the screen.
Yeah, I actually didn't mind so much the scenes that were like a huge mob of avatars because it did have the scale to be kind of impressive. I'm more minded like when it would be Belle kind of one-on-one, and sometimes she kind of had like the low frame rate kind of thing going on, and I'm not a fan of that kind of like
Or-
art style, that CG style.
There was the scene where she's like on, and this is not a spoiler really. The scene where she's like on the big whale singing at the beginning, and also when they're dancing at one point, her arms look so freakishly long in those two scenes. It's so strange.
Yeah. Yeah. So to go back, to walk it back slightly, the main character in the movie is a young girl called Suzu. I don't remember her full name, but she's the one who kind of rose the avatar Belle. That becomes this kind of like online celebrity because
Overnight.
yeah, literally it happens almost instantly, and it's really kind of sad and kind of like sometimes the movie is very saccharine, and it gets very melodramatic sometimes. But Suzu's story is legitimately pretty sad, where basically her mom was a pretty cool person, and she kind of like taught her music and taught her how to sing. But her mom dies while rescuing another kid, basically a stranger's kid. And that kind of created like a lot of like abandonment issues in Suzu, and basically made it so that she could never sing, because like singing was like really closely tied to her mother.
With her mom, yeah.
And it just kind of like really messed her up.
Physically made her ill if she tried.
Yeah. So she just had a lot of trauma around singing and her mother. And when she finally logs on to You, and like Amber mentioned, the whole tagline of You is like the new you. In the real world, you can't start over, but in You, you can't start over.
It's the real you.
And she just totally buys into that instantly, because the moment she logs on, she starts singing. She's like, wow, just like makes this awesome single out of nowhere. Like this pop ballad single just literally comes out of nowhere. And like all the people who are on like in the community space in the spawn area, they're just like all crammed in there, and they're like, who is singing? And some people are like, oh, that's actually pretty dope. Other people are like, oh, you're showing off, log off.
Yeah.
The movie, I like that the movie establishes that like fame in the current world means like 50% people hate you, 50% people love you. That kind of feeds your popularity. It's just like that divisiveness.
Realistic.
Yeah, it's kind of realistic about, and one of the reasons I said it's the most online movie ever, because like, even though they can roll a new avatar and like they're not literally banned, they make it seem like it's almost like canceling, like online canceling. It's like that fear of like you won't be allowed to participate anymore, and like the villains, if you could call them the villains, are chasing after the dragon, which we haven't mentioned yet, and they kind of start this whole hashtag campaign of unveil the beast, and this whole like very kitschy like thing to like basically dox somebody.
And a real world manhunt for who is the dragon or the beast.
Yeah, like in the real world, they're accosting people and interviewing people.
One of which is Kenjiro Suda, being a really cool artist.
Really cool artist?
No, okay, he's not a really cool artist.
In the cyber world, they're hunting him down with the avatars, and there's this guy who has like this item that could literally dox you. That like it says that it interrupts the process in which you create your image into an avatar. It basically cancels that process out, so it's just going to project your regular image. So like
everyone can see the real you.
Yeah, so like if I'm like a super like cool cyber handsome guy and they shot me, I'll be like, you see like my big beard or whatever, and people be like, what? And that's like everybody's like biggest nightmare. It's like it's a palpable. Not only is it like everybody's fear, it's also just like a punishment that's dealt out to people, and that's what I mean when it's a really online movie.
Well, they always like bring it up when there's a big audience around too. It's never just like a private threat, except for one moment.
Yeah.
But it would have become a very public thing afterwards.
Yeah. And the threat is much that it's basically like the main danger point of the film until the later half that we will talk about, where like the dangers of the plot about fitting in and kind of trying to be yourself intersect with like
having a right to exist and be happy.
Yeah, that intersects with like people doing terrible things in real life and it affecting your online life and everything. So I think the movie is kind of, it's a little bit messy, but like it's kind of dense. So I think I like that about the movie. And Summer Wars was kind of similar. Summer Wars was simpler because it's mostly just about family. And it's just about like family sticking together, and that's like, hey, stick together as family. But it was similarly dense with like all these different things happening at the same time. So I like these versions of his stories, the dense ones, more so in my opinion than like Mirai. Did you watch Mirai?
I did not, but I have it on my DVD shelf over there.
Mirai is good, but it's very simple. There's not a lot going on. That one's also about family. He always does about movies about family. Big nerd.
Loves his family, maybe.
or he hates his family, so he has to make good families in movies.
He's like, I need an example of someone to love.
But yeah, so I think the movie does a really good job of painting, like, you know, obviously your real life is important, but then you find an online space that fulfills you in ways your real life might not, and in some ways it feels more important, and then you kind of, that struggle of like, what do I actually want in my life? Do I just want to live online, or do I actually want to hook up with this person that I've liked my whole life, or whatever? And is my online life going to help that or get in the way of that? That's kind of like, just kind of like the main, I don't want to say themes, but that's kind of like the main drive of the first half of the film, I would say.
Yeah. I think anything second half of the film would be very spoilery, so.
Yeah, and I'm fine with jumping to that now, unless you got something else you want to say?
Not non-spoilery, so.
Okay. You've been spoiled or warned about spoilers.
Spoilers. Alright, so spoiler time.
That's right, spoiler time.
I guess the biggest thing for me is that I think it is very important that this movie brings up and deals with child abuse.
Content warning.
Yes. Content warning. Child abuse.
There's very explicit child abuse, which includes like, you know, like threatening and screaming and
throwing a vase.
And implied punching. It's obvious that these people are physically getting beat up. They don't really show that. I don't think they didn't really have to.
No.
But yeah, so know that going forward, that becomes like the main plot in the last third of the movie, because yeah, I'm actually glad we didn't talk too much about Dragon, because like Dragon is
that's his whole thing.
Yeah, he's not that interesting. He's kind of weird and boring.
Very one-dimensional.
Yeah. It's called Belle because it's basically Beauty and the Beast.
But it's not really a romance Beauty and the Beast. I mean, like, yes, Kay, who is the dragon, tells Suzu, who's Belle, when he meets her in person at the end, like, I love you so much, thank you. And she's like, thanks.
Yeah, she like thanks, and then the screen goes gray and it zooms in and it says fucking wasted on the guy.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But I mean, so it was still really sweet. They had a lot of really nice moments in you, and then when they actually like were all together at the end, that was a very powerful and important scene. I do think and this is one of the things that I kind of had a problem with is, or I guess first of all, I think it's good that they address that there are so many rules that stand in a lot of child abuse cases, like being resolved sooner, because they have to follow all these like governmental and bureaucratic rules or whatever.
Yeah.
And that is a problem. But the problem I had with the depiction is, one, my dad would not have backed down from just like seeing blood drip down a girl's face or whatever. And two, like, we still didn't really see or even hear of a resolution of what happened to Tomo and Kay at the end, like after all that.
Right, there wasn't a blurb or anything about like so and so got arrested and
or they came to live with Suzu or whatever.
Yeah, there wasn't. The movie leaves a couple. Yeah, like Amber said earlier, there are a couple of loose threads, including those and including like
her feelings for Shinobu.
Yeah. I don't mind that one. I think that one's pretty obvious.
I minded that one.
I thought they're going to hook up.
It was adorable.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure they're going to hook up. It's okay.
Okay.
But the Justice the leader of the Power Rangers that had the
Justin.
doxing ring. Yeah, that guy didn't really have resolution to his plot.
No.
And again, this goes back to what I thought, that this was going to be a copy of Summer Wars. Summer Wars, all of the characters in the cyber world turn out to be all of the characters in the household.
Yeah.
All the family members, and it's all one-to-one, and it's all like a coincidence.
I really thought Shinobu was going to be the Beast, honestly.
Yeah.
And then that whole twist, I was like, this is better.
It's somebody else different. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't even a main character.
Yeah.
And same thing with Justin. I thought Justin was going to be the abusive dad. Because
Yeah.
they're very much the same character. And she even stands up to him in that kind of same way.
And the voice is similar, too.
Yeah. I looked it up. It's not the same voice actor. But
Yeah.
when I was watching the film, I thought it was.
Yeah.
So those were obvious kind of misdirects, or I don't know if they were trying to misdirect you or not, but they didn't resolve that. So I think it's fine. The movie is dense enough. Like this, it's a little bit too much stuff going on in the movie sometimes.
Yeah, I really did love the symbolism of, like, the father beating, or not beating, verbally beating on Kay, and that being his bruises that you see in you and developing on his cape. I thought that was a really good symbolism for the pain that he was carrying and, like, how he was taking that pain in you.
Yeah.
And then he was, like, the strongest fighter in you because he was so strong in real life.
Yeah, his avatar was this really strong kind of bitter, monstrous beast. And it's because it's this kid who's had to take care of his little brother from an abusive dad who just has just so much anger and just resentment, just wants to lash out, right? And that's why he's, the beast on outward, and inside he's just hurting. And he's tired because basically his whole adolescence has been protecting his little brother from the abusive dad. The movie, it didn't lose me, but I don't know if I like the whole sequence where it basically just rips off the Disney Beauty and the Beast and they're in the ballroom.
The dancing, yes. So one point I wanted to make about that, actually, I do enjoy the music that was used in the film. But there were a couple times where the melody sounded almost like just the same as the intonation for the song Beauty and the Beast, but then it would like cut real quick to like a different tone. And I was just like, you're almost there, like Beauty and that, and then stop.
It would be just enough to avoid copyright infringement.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's close.
So like, it's obviously supposed to be a Beauty and the Beast thing, but the movie is a lot more than that. So the sections that it kind of indulges in the Beauty and the Beast imagery and stuff, I kind of don't. I don't know. Maybe they could have made it shorter. I don't know.
I mean, I still liked it. I knew going in, just like reading an article earlier in the day, that it was going to be similar to Summer Wars, and that it would also be similar to Beauty and the Beast as far as just the tale. And they did make the reference that Belle should be spelled with an E because it's French for beautiful when she's so beautiful or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's great. But, I mean, I liked it. And maybe that's just because I'm, like, a former cast member and I love Disney and everything. But, I mean, I liked it. So, it was cute. But I wanted to say, actually, that Suzu's father and her mom's choir group.
Mom Squad?
Yeah, Mom Squad. They are all top tier. Like,
oh, yeah.
Her dad especially, like, if I had a dad that supportive, come on.
That's the dad that's like
waiting for her at the train station when she gets back from going on this wild adventure on, like, hey Dad, I'm gonna go travel a couple hours away to try to find some kids that are being abused. See you when I see you. And he's like, okay, I accept that you're doing this, and it's okay because your mom raised you to be a kind, gentle person, and I love you.
Yeah.
And he's just waiting at the train station, and just like every day when he would see her, he'd be like, you want to have supper? And instead of this time being like, nah, bye Dad, or whatever, she's like, yeah, let's have supper together, because like her whole tone has shifted. It was a good mirroring that way. But I just really loved how supportive, and he was there, even though he had obviously been hurting too.
Yeah, he's a good, like, not only supportive, he's like 200 IQ supportive, because he knows that if he's too overbearing, he's going to break her and push her further away.
Yes.
So he's just is the most open runway possible.
Yeah.
If she wants to land on the runway and have dinner with him, he's always every single time going to be available.
He doesn't make her feel bad for saying no.
Yeah. Like it isn't like you said. He's not like I'm hurting too. Like, well, why aren't we a family anymore? He's not. He's never like guilt tripping or pressuring her. He knows that she's kind of like in this mode where like she really doesn't feel good about herself.
Yeah.
She feels abandoned and she doesn't feel worthwhile really. Yeah, really good pops. Really good mom squad. There's these 5 women who are part of her upbringing because they're part of her mom's
Her
choir.
mom was in a choir. Yeah.
Yeah.
Little choir group.
So they kind of helped her raise her a little bit afterward. At least they hang out with her or whatever.
And they all had avatars in you as well.
Yes. I thought that was a bigger reveal because like there was a great spot with like turns out they knew Suzu was Belle all along and they're like, oh, let's go help her. She's gonna know we know, but that doesn't matter.
Well, and how did like Shinobu know she was Belle? He's like, hey Suzu, are you Belle? And she's like, what?
Because he's boyfriend man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been watching her this whole time. That's how he knows.
Yeah.
But if he's not in you, how does he know? We never saw him in you.
Yeah, we never saw him, but he could have been in you.
Maybe he just saw like YouTube video clips of you, like.
One of the differences between Summer Wars and you is that in Oz, the cyber world of Summer Wars, it is prolific so much that like government officials use Oz to sign into their workstations.
Yeah.
And that's part of like the plot of the film is that like if you hack Oz, you hack everything, and that's part of the danger towards the end of the film.
You is more of a social app.
Yeah, so like they weren't clear if it was like Oz or not, or if it's just a social app. So it's possible he wasn't in it, just like some people are on Facebook.
Yeah. There was some Apple product placement in there. I saw them on an iPhone. Had a little Apple logo on the back.
We're turning this video off. We can't do this now.
No.
But even if it wasn't on you, I think that you's such a big deal that a big celebrity on you would bleed into like regular TV and probably regular radio.
Well, I mean, before Belle came on the scene, there was another like singing celebrity in you called Peggy Sue, and then it's later revealed that she's also like a teenage girl just like Belle, and then she like turns from being like kind of catty towards her to be like, oh my gosh, go you, I love you.
Yeah. I guess we could talk about the climax. It has a very similar like communal celebratory climax of Summer Wars, where in Summer Wars basically the whole world stood behind
Belle singing to try to reach the beast.
Right. Well, in Summer Wars, it was the koi game, the card game, the Hanafuda game. Natsuki, I think it was the girl's name in Summer Wars, where she was playing a card game against the AI program in Summer Wars. Spoilers for Summer Wars as well. Yeah. But like, the whole world was cheering her on and betting their avatars because that was the pot. The pot wasn't coins or money; it was avatars.
Yeah.
Or accounts, not avatars, accounts. And there's I love the ending to Summer Wars because it's just a lot of fun and it's just like it has this swelling momentum of like everything's building. The whole planet is like let's mess this AI thing up, and it's really memorable. It's really good. This one I didn't like quite as much, but it's the same thing basically.
It was still moving. There was a lot of candles, and I thought the whales were like a pretty kind of symbolic thing that they used throughout. Because like you saw when she was walking through like a shopping mall area or the train station or something, they had like whale symbols in the town she lived in. Suzu lives in a very rural town. It's not a city. Whereas Kei and Tomo, the children being abused, live in Tokyo. So it's a vast difference how she found them. No idea. But
this is the most online movie ever. The Reddit detectives were on the case and they figured it out. Okay?
You just like okay, they did narrow it down to the neighborhood. I can understand how you narrow it down to the neighborhood. But still, like, she would have been like knocking on every door for days if that kid hadn't been out in the alley.
Because she was running around panting.
In the rain. I bet if she like stood in the middle of that neighborhood and started singing super loud, somebody would have recognized the voice.
I think maybe that was the right way to do that scene.
Yeah.
Was to her to get like in the PA system of like...
That would have even been better.
Yes, or something like that. But like Maybe that was too smart for the scene. Maybe they wanted to just have Belle or Suzu desperately running and having her struggle vindicated by actually somehow miraculously finding these abused kids in the middle of the road.
Kay and Tomo are adorable, by the way, especially Kay.
Yes. You know what? When I was watching this movie in the beginning, I was like, wait, is this an actual Summer Wars sequel? Because Kay is very, very similar to the Kazuma character in Summer Wars. Let me thumb through this right quick, see if...
We have a copy of Summer Wars.
So the character that has this avatar...
It's the guy with the, like, rabbit Digimon looking one, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, him.
This character in the real world... Actually, I just saw him right there. I think his name was Kazuma, and he was very much... There he is.
Oh, yeah, he does look very similar to
He
Kay.
looked very similar to Kay. And in the end of Summer Wars, his mom was pregnant, right? And you see the father briefly. He didn't look anything like Kay's father. Mm-hmm. But basically, you knew that Kazuma was going to have a baby. I was like, wait, is this like Kazuma a little bit older, and that's his at the time unborn kid or unborn kid brother, and the mom died afterwards? But it clearly wasn't. It's just similar character design. But I was like, I was this? I was trying to connect the dots while I was watching the movie.
Like, there's a way.
Is that Natsuki? Is that who's that? And I was just like trying to draw these connections that weren't really there. I mean, the connections there are obvious. It's just a lot of borrowed ideas about the cyber world and people coming together.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think my favorite character in the movie is still going to be Shinobu. Not because of, like, the romantic part, even though that, but because he has been there for her, like, this whole time, subtly, and then when she finally stands up for herself, he's like, I don't have to watch over you. We can actually hang out as friends now. And, like, it was a very sweet moment. And, he, like, every time where he, like, would force her to confront, like, her feelings was, like, just timed well because he knew, like, he could read her. Yeah. And I felt like that was a really important, like, push for her each time.
I thought that was kind of funny. You thought it was touchy, but I thought it was funny. Where he was like, okay, I don't have to baby you anymore.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
But he meant that, like, in a more romantic way, I think. Yeah. And then I also thought it was kind of touching that Ruka wasn't actually kind of like a two-faced evil person. She was actually like a genuine person that just liked this other person. Yeah. Paddle boy.
Yes. So, the movie was very obviously, or seemingly obviously, heading towards a love triangle between Suzu, Shinobu, and Ruka, which is the popular girl. And Shinobu is pretty popular as well. And he's a childhood friend of Suzu, which is kind of like the more reserved girl. She's not popular. So there's this immediate tension where, like, the school dynamic is like, oh, well, like, Shinobu can't end up with Suzu. Like, she's a nobody. She's ugly. I mean, he should end up with me. But if he ends up with Ruka, that's okay, I guess. Because Ruka's, like, the most beautiful girl in school, and she's the best. And there's a really great scene about where, like, Rumor is started, and it's represented as, like, a mobile game.
Like a strategy.
Yeah, like a hex-based strategy game.
And Hero's like, I got this. Yeah. You talk to the reasonable people.
Yeah. Like, it kind of flips the board upside down, and Hero, her nerdy friend, says, okay, no, I'll figure out the best route possible for you to defuse the situation. And you see her drawing lines between all of these generals, and those are the ones that you need to defuse and actually talk to, because they could talk down their kind of group of friends. Yeah. And then after all this happens,
it was a very comical scene.
It was done very well. It was like a 3-minute sequence. It was like really fast, and then it just ends.
But I mean, that's like a really good representation of high school drama with at least my experience with teenage girls. Like, stuff spreads like freaking wildfire. Yeah. And you have to put out fires all the time because people just, like, believe whatever.
Yeah, and it sometimes it might not even help you to talk it out with some people. Yeah. But some people, it won't matter. Yeah. They're just going to believe whatever.
Believe it.
And then the camera pulls back, and it says truce. It's like some sort of wind condition.
Truce accomplished.
Yeah, so on the video game it was a wind condition.
Yeah, and the condition was like, oh, he would never go out with me. I'm not good enough or not pretty enough or whatever. And they're like, oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Like, oh, it was understanding. It's like, oh, okay. And then it cuts to like her exhausted and her phone blowing up. Like, come on. A bunch of people saying sorry to her.
Yeah.
Because just like 50 girls started like fucking
apologizing for being like super awful to her.
Yeah. Which is really funny.
Yeah.
That sequence is great. I think that sequence is an example of like Mamoru Hosoda's kind of like kinetic set pieces, comedic set pieces, maybe a better way to say it. I like his sequences that are like that. They're just these little self-contained little jokes, and it is part of the plot, but it's just like this little bottle cap of zaniness.
Yeah.
But yeah, that love triangle between Ruka, Shinobu, and Zuzu is kind of like a red herring. Turns out Ruka likes Paddle Guy.
Yeah.
Paddle Guy is really weird guy. He's really eccentric.
He's nice though.
He's a really great guy. He's the kind of guy who's friends with all the guys, but none of the girls like. He's that kind of guy, right? He doesn't get along with girls really well
because he's like outgoing in himself, and
yes.
It's a little zany. So
yeah, and to reiterate the best recurring joke in the movie, basically he got into like the inter highs, so he's gonna compete in the nationals between all the schools, and Suzu was like, "Wow, that's awesome, bro, awesome! I'm rooting for you." And he goes, "Did you hear that? She's rooting for me? Could that mean that maybe?" Does that mean that
crush on me?
Do you have a little crush on me? And the moment he says that, you could see it diffused. Like
Suzu's face just freezes. Like,
yeah, it's like come on, dude. It's like fuck off.
What do I do here? And then Shinobu throws her like a life preserver.
Yeah, Shinobu's like you're a dumbass. And he does the same exact thing later on in the scene with Ruka, but then it kind of
she actually does like
she does actually like him. So she dies when he says, "Oh wait, could it be that maybe you have a little crush on me?"
She just like freezes like.
She just dies, and then like Suzu just standing there is like, actually, yeah. He's like, what? Like, yeah, actually, what?
And he
He's
just like starts freaking out and like backing slowly out of the train station.
That's another example of just like a
good comedic sequence.
A gag, yeah, like a gag sequence where like the quote unquote camera was fixed in this train station,
just like on Ruka's embarrassment.
Yeah, and it was like a wide angle, and Paddle Guy would keep coming in and out and not knowing how to approach her. That was like almost right. That was right before, like the climax, right? Right after that, they ran over to the old school.
Yeah.
And then they started like that whole big climax.
Because they're like, Shinobu came in, and he's like, "Where's Suzu?" Because he had like just been yelling to her across the street, and he knew that she had been over there or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, the climax of the movie involves Dragon or the Beast or K. They actually find a live stream of the little brother streaming out the abuse, but Kay doesn't believe that she actually wants to help. She thinks that they're like,
she's another person like saying that they'll help, but there's nothing that she could do.
Yeah, and they establish there's people going into that live stream just to like mock it, be like,
yeah.
Bro, what's this domestic abuse? Wacky, and then they just leave. It's really weird.
Yeah, and then like.
So he's like, oh, you just saw these like these other spectators, like all these people just like looking on.
Well, like Kay is rightfully distrustful. He's just like, you can't help us. You say you're gonna help, but it's always it's help, but you can't do anything, and like I don't trust you, and just like hangs up.
Yeah. So basically the solution that they come to is that you gotta dox yourself to like show that you're being like super honest and real. And that's the only way he's going to trust you, because through like the artifice of the avatars, there's too much artifice. There's too much like stuff in between that. So basically, she dogs herself. She does her musical number as her own image. And at first it shocks people because, well, she's just like a regular looking girl. She's not like this weird CG avatar.
Well, and then Peggy Sue was like, she's a girl just like me, which is where that reveal comes from.
But she still has, it's not like I was gonna say Oz. It's not like you modifies her voice or anything like that. It's still her singing voice and all that. So she starts singing the song and it still draws people in, and it kind of creates this like almost worldwide chorus of everybody singing the song.
Well, I think they start singing in when she kind of chokes up a bit. Like, she
Yes.
starts crying because of, like, the emotionalness of the scene. And then after the movie, you're like, did you cry because they were crying? And I'm like, no. But I didn't, actually, this time, so.
Okay, well, okay, to explain that, what movie did we see? Oh,
Ride
Ride
Your
Your Wave.
Wave,
Yes, we
yes.
saw Ride Your Wave, and I think before we saw the movie...
You cried, too.
What? Did I cry?
Yes, you did. You also cried at Violet Evergarden, which I am into as well, but still.
Are you gaslighting me?
No, I'm not even kidding. For both Ride Your Wave and Violet Evergarden, we both were like
Violet
in
Evergarden, I
tears.
believe more because that movie was ridiculous. But
I mean, I knew I was gonna cry for Ride Your Wave because I knew like that all that death stuff was gonna hit really hard.
That's what I was getting to. Like
Spoilers for Ride Your
you
Wave.
had told me like, oh man, I'm gonna cry so much in this movie. And I didn't actually hear Amber crying. I guess I expected her to be like...
I was like detective, like hidden crier over there.
So at the end of Ride Your Wave, I turned to her and I said, "See, that was the bad. You didn't cry." And you're like, "I cried that whole
so
movie."
much.
So at that point, I took that to mean that Amber was just a crier. She cried at everything. Turns out she didn't cry at this movie though.
I didn't cry at this movie.
I was affected by like it was a really effective scene at the very end when
It definitely pulls at the heartstrings.
Very much.
It brought me to the brim of like I could cry, but then I didn't.
Yeah, I would admit to that as well. Okay. But I live my life like that. I'm always at the brim of crying. I never cried though.
Yes, every day.
So like
That's what bathroom breaks are for. Okay.
Yeah, that's dark.
Accurate though.
Yeah. During that singing scene, she kind of has this epiphany because she is basically self-sacrificing her online life and what could be her career and what could be her happiness for this stranger who she knows is in trouble. And they realize that she's kind of doing the same thing that her mother did when she basically drowned while saving another kid. So she has this, that's why she breaks down. Or does that happen after she breaks down? I'm pretty sure she breaks down because of that. When she has like this realization.
Just like I have to reach him.
Yeah. She realized that like she is like self-sacrificing the same or similar way that her mom did in her past.
And she does reach him, and they start to give her the address, but then as soon as they like say my address is, the dad comes in and catches them on camera and like flips out, shuts the camera off, and then Ruka notices that throughout the two different phone calls, there's been two different town melodies that have been playing. So they're between two different city districts. And then also Paddle Guy recognizes the photo, or not the photo, but outside their window in the room, there's these twin towers that are in Tokyo. I forgot the name of the specific towers, but things that he recognized from going to his paddle competition. Or canoeing competition.
Everybody helps out. Everybody pitches in somehow. Like, oh, I recognize this. Oh, I know this.
And Shinobu's like, you gotta go.
Even the dumbass paddleboard guy was like, helps out by saying, oh, I recognize that when I was eating shit over here, by the way. You know, it's like, that's part of the movie that's a little bit like saccharine, a little bit like, you know, it wouldn't really happen that way.
And the chorus lady's like, I'll drive you. I'm gonna call the cops and we're gonna see what we can do.
Yeah. Pretty good climax, I'll say. I think that the emotional hit was good. I like the Beauty and the Beast relationship because he said it's not romantic. It's like this.
I mean, if it is, it's one-sided romantic because Kay does say he loves her, but she says thanks.
Well, love can be platonic. Most young kids wouldn't say it like that usually, but Kay's
he's 14. He knows.
But Kay's a like very specific kid. Like Kay isn't gonna. I think Kay would like propose to her instead of saying like I love you or something like that. He'd yeah.
He would be like 100% serious too. He'd be like, let's get married. She'd be like, wait, what? You're like 4 years old. You're 3 or 4 years younger than me. What?
Yeah. For all those reasons, I recommend Belle. Do you recommend Belle?
I do recommend Belle.
If you don't want to brave the theaters, I think it's fine for you to wait for it to be on streaming services. I wouldn't call it the most immediate movie ever. It's not like a summer, not Summer Wars. What's that movie that blew up? Your Name. It's not like a Your Name phenomenon or anything. But even though I probably like this way more than Your Name because Your Name sucks. No, I'm kidding.
We're gonna end this podcast right now.
Your Name is okay, but I don't love it like some people love it.
I love it.
Yeah, it's good. I think I like Mamoru Hosoda movies more than I like Makoto Shinkai.
Well,
It's just more my speed.
So the funny thing is, or like I was thinking when I was going to be talking on here about like different resolutions like not happening in this movie, I was like, that's pretty funny coming from me because I absolutely love Makoto Shinkai, who's the king of not giving me resolutions. So
Makoto Shinkai movies are way too long anyways.
I love them so much.
He needs to you just cut some 15-20 minutes off of it. Just cut the fat a little bit, you know what I'm saying?
But they be pretty though.
They be pretty and they print the money. So they're gonna keep going.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited for the next one.
Yes, the Door movie.
Yes. The Mysterious Door. Well, hopefully we can get Darfox here to watch the latest Fate movie with me, and then we can make another video about that. That'll be fun.
That Fate video is gonna just be me be like, what was the deal with the thing?
And then I'm gonna go into like an hour-long explanation of what the Fate universe is and why no one will ever understand it.
Alright. Well, like and subscribe for that, I guess. And we'll probably, we're gonna definitely see more movies here and there. We like to watch some of the new releases. Most of the new releases. I don't really watch all of them, but Mamoru Hosoda comes to town. I'm showing up. I'm telling you that. I'm showing up with Mamoru Hosoda.
We were there opening night, first showing, subbed.
Well,
I mean, it was the first showing.
Opening night for the States or for our area because I think that movie meant to come out a long time ago and COVID kneecapped that.
It did.
So it's available now. Yo check ya. Excuse me.
What are you doing? Can we help you?
Oh, I thought you guys were still filming.
Yeah.
What? What are you doing? Get out! What the fuck is he doing? I'm so confused.
Is there anything over there?
No?